Hi and welcome to Teresa's Crafty Cabana. I'm showing you how to mix some alcohol inks with some acrylic paints today. First, I'm making a little stencil out of my sticky backed foam. I'm just running it through the die cutter. I'm using, it's actually like a sprig from a Christmas set. It's supposed to be like a Christmas sprig, but it's kind of looked like a firework to me. So I decided if I cut out a bunch of these and put them on a cardboard, I can make a cool design. So I kind of had them facing different directions and just stuck them down using whatever color of foam that I had leftovers from. This way it doesn't go to waste. I'm going to be using my Golden Fluid Acrylic Titan Buff color as my base, and then I've got Fiesta, Purple Twilight, Glacier, and Laguna for my colors that I'm using for alcohol inks. I just dropped in some white paint, then I put the alcohol ink over the paint blobs. And then I'm just going to brayer those out. So I'm just testing to see here how these blend together, how well they blend together. I do notice already that where I put the paint and where I put the colors around the paint kind of made like a circle on the gel plate because it already started to dry, because alcohol inks dry really fast. So that's one thing I already noticed. And then I used the homemade texture just to get some neat design in the background here. And I'm using a sponge to get a little bit more texture. I've got this color changing top coat Dragonfly Glaze. I'm just going to use that to pull up this print. Since those kind of look like fireworks to me, I wanted to have something sparkly in the background. I'm using my Hammer Mill copy paper. This is 32-pound bright white, really great for color printing and for jelly prints. The prints come out really, really beautiful. And I like that it's a thinner paper than cardstock, because sometimes to cut out layers, it's just nicer to have some thinner layers. And also it is a little bit thicker than my previous copy paper, and so it holds up really well for die cutting. Next, I wanted to try using a second jelly plate to mix my colors with the white and then brayer it onto my other gel plate. So I mixed up some pink. This time I actually brought in an orange color. I didn't brayer off in between these colors. I just kind of let them blend into each other. Mostly because my brayer off page was underneath my gel plate, so I just kind of went with it. So the blue kind of started turning almost like a little bit of a different color, but I like how it kind of matches the tone of the orange and the pink color. So that's why the blue looks a little bit different. This is a texture for a clay. It's just like a set that I got, so that makes a really great texture on your gel plate. And then for my gel plate that I was using to mix up the paint, I just decided to brayer out the rest of the colors on there and use that one to pull a print as well. I wanted to have a little bit of a design, so I used this stencil of the honeycombs, and I've got some tissue paper left over from Christmas, so I'm just using that to remove some of the paint with a really neat texture. I'll go ahead and let both of those dry completely, and then I'm adding silver on the back of one and gold on the back of the other. I don't end up cleaning my brayer off completely with the silver. I just go right into the gold, but the gold is a powerful color, so it seems to stand well on its own there. And I didn't use my placement tool for this part because I had my jelly plates close to each other. I just took one 8.5 by 11 piece of my copy paper and just placed it over the two plates. and then I removed my prints. And you'll notice there's little mushrooms on this one. So this plate, I hadn't cleaned this plate or used this plate since I did some mushrooms around fall time, and they were little brown mushroom outlines. So that's what those prints are from. But here you can see the silver background to this one. It almost looks like a sunset. And then the mushrooms here with the gold in the background. I think these colors are so pretty. They're quite dreamy looking, and I don't know, very, very soft. I like how these are looking. One more test I wanted to do with alcohol inks and acrylic. I know I've done this one before, so I thought I'd show you. This is probably one of my more favorite ways to use alcohol inks with the acrylic paint. I first dropped my alcohol inks onto the gel plate. I put my 2 gel plates together. You could use the bigger plate. I just decided to have the 2 because the alcohol inks do tend to stain, or they will stain your gel plates. So if you have brand new gel plates and you don't want them to be discolored, just be warned that some, not all, but some of the alcohol inks do stain. It's usually the greens and the yellows and some of the blues that will stain the most. Here I'm dropping in some blending solution. The colors weren't really moving too much, so by putting the blending solution over the top, the colors were able to move and mix together. It started looking more pink than blue or green, so I went back in with my blues and greens, and the alcohol kind of separates the other color. It doesn't really mix. It like creates its own way there, so it's kind of nice because then I brought back the blue and the green there. And then I'll just remove this stencil. So that's looking pretty neat, but I want to add some texture. This is drywall tape, just put onto the back of a piece of cardboard. I'm just pressing that down. I'm doing this while the alcohol ink is still wet, and that just gives it a little more texture. I'm going to let that dry, both of the plates completely. And for my golden fluid acrylic, I'm going to use the iridescent gold. This is such a pretty gold. I think I've used it almost all up. It's a very, very vivid, pretty gold color, not like a tacky gold color. Definitely I'll be restocking on this one. I've not tried the silver, if there is a silver from Golden Fluid, but the gold is definitely one of my favorite metallics that I've used. Once that dries, I'll pull up those 2 prints. And these just look so neat to me. Whenever I do the alcohol inks and then the acrylic over the top, especially a metallic over the top, they just look like watercolors. And I know some of you don't like alcohol inks, but using the stencil kind of gives it somewhere to go and gives it a little bit of a design to follow. So I think they just turned out so pretty. And I did want to use some of these prints to make some cards. So I'm actually going to use the first 2 prints that I did, the one that looks like the ocean scene and then the one that looks like fireworks. Cut out some rectangles. I'm trying to get rid of that part that didn't gel plate too well. I cut out 2 rectangles first, and this is my largest rectangle, and I wanted to see how I could get rid of that dark pink blob in the middle of that first one. So I pulled out a couple of my smaller rectangles, and then I just kind of lined them up over that area to get rid of that part. This kind of just creates a nice little design feature. And then once those are cut out, it stacks nicely on the other one because it's the exact same size. So I'm making this one into a birthday card using this stamp set. There's a little happy birthday to you in here by Hero Arts. I'm just going to use my VersaFine Onyx black ink. I just carefully stamped in the opening of the biggest window. And the sentiment fit perfectly in there. I had this other stamp set, Hip Stamp Hooray from Hobby Lobby. It's tags and different stamps here, so I used a couple of these stamps. I really liked this one that looked like a stitched edge. I put down some washi tape, and this will just help keep the stamped image from going further than where I want it to go. So the stitching looks cute. And then I just wanted to use a couple more of those stamps behind the other openings. I cut down a blue piece of cardstock to create a frame or a mat for the sentiment part. And then I'm using this other gel print as my background. I created an A2 card with some white cardstock, white cardstock, 110 pound. And then I cut down my gel print to fit on the card base. I will keep the scraps of the print that I cut out. I'm using the Spellbinders, some leaves from here, mini blooms and sprigs, and then this is Sizzix, some more blooms and sprigs from here. This one is actually called Floral Frame, and I'm pulling out just some of the leaves from here that I like. I have some white cardstock. This is some really thick white cardstock that I have. I'll link that one below as well. I think it's 140 pound. I cut those leaves and sprigs out, and I'm going to use this lunar paste. I like to have a baby wipe close by because I'm just going to use my finger, and I just want to give these leaves a little bit of some interest. So I was either going to do some distress ink over them, but I wanted to keep it simple so that the gel print of the card really shines. So this is a way to kind of make these not feel so boring, and they still take on the bright color of the white, which I wanted to keep that, but it gives it a shine. So I just rubbed those on, cleaned my finger, and it comes off really easily. And then I let these leaves dry. To give this some dimension, I added some foam tape. Okay, I added a lot of foam tape and just adhered that to the blueprint. And then the print started laying flat after this, which was nice because it was curling a little bit. I used some double-sided tape to adhere my background to the card base. I have to make sure it opens the right way. And the trickiest part with double-sided tape is you don't have that forgiveness that you get with wet glue. So you just have to be careful when applying it that it's straight. I think I did pretty good. And for those leaves, I wanted them to kind of hang off the corner of that first part that has the sentiment. So they're just going to go right behind there and on top of the blue mat. Just like that. And I'm going to do it on two corners. I'll be using Eileen's Tacky Glue, and I'm only applying glue to the very base of the stem. So not on any of the leaves, just where that little stem piece is. And it looks nice when you layer them on top of each other. So I kind of repeated that same design on the bottom corner. And then you can take those leaves and the sprigs and kind of bend them and fold them up a little bit just to give them some dimension. I used the same double-sided tape to tape down these 2 layers. And then for these extra pieces that I had, I cut my blue and pink strips down, and to make a little bunting, you just cut down the middle. I like to fold in those 2 pieces so I can see where I need to cut to, and then you cut from one edge into the center and you pull those away and you have a nice little bunting. So I cut all of my little pink and blue pieces out like this, and I made them different sizes. And then I used blue cardstock and that other extra piece for my gel print and glued that along the side. Put down a little bit of foam tape and some wet glue to kind of mix up the heights on the bunting. And then just glued those down. And they look really cute, and the silver really pops. I wanted to add a little bit of something else, so I added some pink, hot pink sequins to the pink bunting. And then on the front of the card, I just used some Stickles glitter glue to adhere some of those hot pink sequins, kind of like a marquee sign around the happy birthday. I just didn't cover up where the stitching was, so just the top and the bottom. And that completes the card. So I think it's really pretty with the silver accent from the leaves, and then the gel print that has the silver in it. And I like those colors. They're just really soft colors. This is probably going to be a birthday card for a girl, for one of my family members. I'm trying to get better about sending out birthday cards on time this year. So one of my New Year's goals for the year is to work on getting out my cards. And if I can't get a birthday card out, then send a hello or a thinking of you kind of card. I hope you enjoyed watching this process, and I will see you in the next video. I'll be doing another combination jelly print with a card, and maybe eventually I'll be working on the mixed media tags. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, happy crafting, y'all.